Hello, my name is Alana Negroni, and I am one of the clinicians here at the Counseling Team International. I wanted to come on here today and talk to you a little bit about some ways, some tips, some tools on how to help support our children during a very stressful, very uncertain time in our lives. It can be extremely difficult for us to support people that we love, let alone our children, when we have not yet ourselves even processed or found ways to support how we're thinking, what we're feeling, all of that. So again, I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks. The acronym that I came up with is CARES, C-A-R-E-S. C. We want to connect with them. We really want to focus on creating a safe space for them to come to us, to talk to us about their reactions, their responses. Now, as a parent, if that is something that's very difficult for you to do, then create that safe space somewhere else. Encourage your children to talk to you if you feel comfortable with that, to reach out to a family member, to a friend, to get in touch with a clinician, but make sure that they have some safe space that they can go to. They can pick up the phone, they can have a conversation with somebody where they feel like they can connect with them on whatever it is that they're feeling. They're feeling scared, they're feeling afraid, they're feeling stressed out, they're feeling mad, they're feeling hurt, they're feeling happy. Whatever it is, encourage that they find that safe space, help them to create that safe space so that they can get that connection, because through that connection is really how we build resiliency, and it's how we build strength. In that ability to share what's happening for us, that vulnerability, that courage in vulnerability, and being able to connect is how we build strength again and how we build resiliency. Now the A is going to stand for address. Once they have opened up and shared those emotions with you, address them, validate them, talk to them about how it's normal to be afraid right now. Talk to them about how you yourself are afraid right now. Now I say that, but I want to insert a little caption underneath there. You want to make sure that that validation or that sharing of feeling, that self-disclosure, is age appropriate and cognitive level development appropriate. Don't be sharing, your inner workings with a 5-year-old. You might be able to share a little bit more with your 15-year-old than you can share with your 5-year-old. But again, you want to make sure you are maintaining that parent-child dynamic, that you are not laying your fears, your frustrations on your children, but rather your focus here is to validate how they're feeling. If they come to you and they talk to you about how scared they are, you can say, you know what, I can understand that. There are times during all of this when I felt scared too. One of the best things that we can do for our children is make them feel like the emotional reactions that they are having, the thoughts that they are having, are normal. They look up to us as their parents, and if we can connect with them on that emotional reaction and validate that feeling, then that's going to help support them in ways that are going to go far beyond this pandemic and reach into all of their coming developmental years. The next word is redirect. We want to also redirect them and help them focus on things that are going to be a little bit more enjoyable. We might also focus on creating a routine for them. Redirect them from schoolwork in the morning and in the afternoon to fun activities later on in the day. Create memories that maybe you wouldn't normally have had time to create. I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today, and they were telling me how their daughter finally had been saying this for quite some time, but finally got around to building a garden in their backyard with her children. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I think as life used to go on, we would typically say, I'll get around to that, or that's something that I would eventually like to do. Well, now is the time to do those things. A lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us have found that we have more time on our hands now than we ever have. The social engagements, right, have been taken off of our calendars. Our work has been greatly modified. So create those memories with your children that you typically wouldn't have the ability to create. I know for me, I have a 3-year-old at home, and the other day we were painting. And soon enough, the paint went from the paper onto the face, onto the belly, and we just ultimately let her have kind of a free-for-all, paint-yourself session. Again, not something that maybe we normally would have done, but it did create some memories for her, and she is hopefully going to be able to look back on these days, not as stress-packed days. She's also only 3, but not as stress-packed days, but also as some fun memories, some fun building moments. The E, educate. Make sure that your children are properly educated. In the absence of information and with the absence of data, we as human beings fill in the gaps. Now, the difference between an adult doing that and a child doing that is that a lot of the time children have much more active imaginations. And so they will incorporate some of those more active imaginings into those gaps that they have. They also don't have the ability to process in the same way as adults do. And so they may hear something like there are high-risk categories. People over the age of 65 are in a high-risk category. And in their mind, that becomes, if my grandpa gets sick, he's going to die. That is not the reality. If your grandpa gets sick, we know that he's going to get sick, but we don't know anything beyond that. We don't know if he's going to die. We don't know if he has coronavirus. We don't know if it's the seasonal flu. So help educate your children. Again, this education needs to be age and cognitive development appropriate. And you as the parent need to trust in your instincts as far as what those levels need to be. You know your children better than any book is going to know them. And so trust in that intuition as a parent. But make sure that you are educating them as best you can. Talk to them about their fears and then educate them. If their fear is that we're going to get sick, talk to them about the ways that you as a family are protecting yourselves. We are wearing masks when we go out into the public. We're making sure that we're washing our hands, helping them understand that there is a certain level of control that we can have during this situation. And then finally, the S, we want to shelter them. We want to shelter them from the news. We want to shelter them from conversations that we may be having as adults. We want to shelter them from the reactions, again, that as adults we may be having ourselves. We want to create that safe space for our children. If we have the news on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because as adults we need to feel like we're up to date on information, which I also don't think is a great thing, you need to understand that your children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week are going to be listening to that as well. If you are a parent, you know that your children have this wonderful ability to hear things that they should never have heard, that you thought that they were playing outside and you were 10 miles away and you had a conversation with someone. For whatever reason, they heard it and they internalized it. And then you're walking through the aisles of the grocery store and boom, all of a sudden they spout out that thing that you didn't think that they heard. Your children are listening. They are taking clues from you. Again, whether that's through the news, whether that's a conversation that you may be having with loved ones. Is that the only thing that you're talking to your family about? Then listen, that's the only thing that your kids are going to be hearing. So you need to create that shelter for them. You also want to be sheltering them against your own emotional reactions. Am I constantly anxious about this? Am I constantly afraid? Your children are going to pick up on those emotional reactions. Are you doing the best with what you can? Are you the person sitting there complaining about how bored you are, about how difficult it is to work from home, about how anxious you are? Then guess what? Your children are going to model, they're going to mimic those responses and that behavior. You want to encourage your children to do something that's a little bit more enjoyable, right? I'm bored, but you know what? That doesn't mean that I have to stay bored. It means that I get to find something cool to do. Again, normalizing their reactions does not equate to me dumping my emotional responses onto my children. Anxious people raise anxious children. So make sure that you are sheltering your kids from your emotional responses, from the news media, from your conversations with other adults, because we really want them to be focused right now on what's important to a kid. And again, that's going to be different depending on their age. For teenagers, it might be a little bit more about their friends. For younger children, it might be a little bit more about the fun stuff that we can do. I hope any of this information was helpful for you. Some just kind of additional quick little things. Get outside. The weather is starting to look a little bit better, a little bit brighter. So get outside, get some of that vitamin D. That vitamin D is good for our immune systems, but it also helps us feel better. And then also encourage your children to connect with their kids. You might have a 5-year-old who has a pretty good social support system. Set them up on FaceTime, set them up on Skype, set them up on Zoom so that those kids can interact with each other. I'm going to venture to guess that your teenage children are probably already doing that, but if they're not, encourage them to do that as well, because again, it goes back to this whole cares dialogue, connecting, addressing their emotional reactions, redirecting them, educating them, and then also sheltering them. And again, please, if you have any questions, concerns, do not hesitate to pick up the phone and give us a call. We are here. You're accessible. So please, again, do not hesitate to contact. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.